The Adidas Evo SL is highly anticipated. I already shared a first impression review on this channel, and now I have my final verdict. Let's go into it. Hey everyone and welcome back on the channel. My name is Alex. In today's video, I have my final verdict about the Adidas Adizero EVO SL. This is the little sister, little brother to the Evo 1. And if you want to have already my first impression review, you can check it out on the channel. It will provide you with an in-depth analysis of this shoe. Here in this final verdict video, I really want to give you an update on a few key areas that I believe are worth mentioning, worth discussing. And there's a bit of it in the upper, a bit of it in the midsole, and a bit of it in the outsole. So, covering all of the elements, but without going into all of them in details with all the classic sections. And without no further ado, let's start with the upper, with a major update in my assessment, because I was able to purchase another pair of this shoe in New York at the New York Marathon Expo. I got a shoe from Adidas in Berlin. It was a US 10, which is a full size down for me. And I gave a first impression review with that shoe being one full size down compared to my true to size. I got this shoe in my true to size, which means that first of all, I will be able to weigh it here in front of you live on camera. Not something we do very often. 249 grams in my size US 11, which is less than what I predicted based on the US 10 sample. It's a good thing. I mean, 250 grams for a trainer like this is really competitive. This is a lightweight trainer, non-plated, but the major update, obviously, with a true to size shoe is about the fit and the upper in general. Obviously, lengthwise, this is much better than the US 10 I had. I find it being a bit too loose now around the heel area and here around that midfoot area. The lockdown isn't perfect. It was better on the full size down shoe. Now, in between, there's obviously half a size, which I haven't tried, but if I were to choose to pick a size in the Adidas lineup, it would be my true to size US 11. So my recommendation for this shoe would be for you to go for your true to size with Adidas, whatever it was in the past. It runs perfect in terms of length. I have exactly what I want, a bit less than a thumb, to be honest, more like a middle finger type of space here at the front of the toes. The length matters most to me than the lockdown. I think the lockdown would be better in that in between size, so it would be a 10.5. But again, length being more important, I would recommend you to go for your true to size. The other update I have about the upper is about the tongue, and more specifically about the length of the tongue. I have struggled with it because I find it too short, meaning that the laces tend to come on top of it. Not necessarily when you lace up, obviously you lace up and it's sitting nicely, but then when you start running, it slides, and then it ends up rubbing against the top of your ankle, and that's not super pleasant. So I tried with a runner's knot, without a runner's knot. With the runner's knot was not to address this issue, obviously. It was more to address the lockdown here in the midfoot and heel area. But the runner's knot was creating even more friction here at the top of my foot. So I decided to go without a runner's knot, kind of accept a bit more movement around the heel, and it's okay. And if you don't lace up too strong, too tight, then you get less of that effect. But half a centimeter extra length for the tongue would be ideal. And that's my major complaint about the upper, which I think otherwise, is a nice upper, and I wouldn't have much to say about it if the tongue was not too short. Midsole, what's the update? I simply love it, and that's all I can say in terms of update. I knew I would enjoy this shoe after my first impression review, so after a couple of runs. I had a good idea of what it would provide, what it would create, and this was highly confirmed after almost 80 kilometers in the shoe, 70 and change. I'm very, very confident to say that this shoe is a banger, and it will sell like hotcakes in 2025 when it releases in March. In between now and then, you have the opportunity to buy it on the Adidas app if you are a lucky winner. Lightstrike Pro without a plate. It is super responsive, soft, but at the same time, it's not one of these too mushy midsoles. It's just super bouncy, super energetic, low density with, that advantage of having a low weight, and also feeling under your foot that very reactive, very, very responsive midsole, but it's not, again, too soft. It's really, really good. I think you can see it probably now when watching this video. My face says it all, and I'm not too ecstatic about shoes in general on this channel because I'm able to compare many, and I know that jewels are very rare, and this is maybe not one of them because of the upper, but it's super, super close to being a perfect ride in that very specific up-tempo category. One of the downsides of the midsole, it's not really a downside for me. I appreciate having something a bit more narrow, but it feels narrow and it doesn't feel super stable. If you have that midfoot strike, you can feel that it's a bit wobbly, especially at slower paces, but even at faster paces, it's not a super stable shoe. It's a shoe that is really requiring to be concentrated, to be focused, and to be nicely aligned with your running, with your stride, because otherwise it's not forgiving. It doesn't have that forgiveness that a wider base and a plated shoe might also offer when it comes to the stability side of things. Last aspect, and that's the outsole. I was a bit negative about the outsole in my first impression review, and I realized this was mostly because I was running on wet surfaces with dead leaves on the ground, which is probably a good combination in a sense because it allows to test outsole compounds in rough conditions, but it's also not super fair to only assess an outsole based on these conditions. So after running on dry surfaces, but also on wet surfaces without the dead leaves, I kind of, revised my assessment of that Continental outsole. It's a good outsole. I would, however, not give it a, perfect grade just because of that initial impressions on wet surfaces with dead leaves. It was slippery and that's it. The rest of the time, it was really good on all the other surfaces I ran on. Mostly in New York City in parks. And I can also say that the durability should be quite good. I was a bit, skeptical at first, but it's actually not that worn here on my outsole. After, like I said, 70 kilometers and change, almost 80, I have no signs of wear, just a tiny bit here in the heel, but it's very, very marginal. So I predicted decent durability out of this outsole, and I also, like I said, increase a bit the assessment when it comes to its performance. Value for money, I have really nothing to say. This is spot on. It could almost be more expensive, but I shouldn't say it. Get ready and buckle up because this shoe should end up in your rotation at some point. There's a good purpose for it in many people's rotation. It might not be the same purpose for everyone, and this is also super interesting. We could come back on this topic, but I think there's a reason to have it for pretty much most of the runners, not every runner, most of the runners. This is it, final verdict of the Adidas Evo SL. Let's link to another review right here that is relevant, maybe the Rebel, because they have some elements in common. Thanks for watching. Enjoy your run today. Enjoy your ride. Go beyond your limits. I will see you in the next one.